Hey there, it's your host, Eric, from the Machine of Nonsense. Before we get to the bracket of nonsense, I just wanted to let everyone know this will be a spoiler-heavy discussion. We can't really describe these characters in full without, kind of really going into spoiler territory, given big plot points of the various games, movies, and TV shows that they are a part of. So if you're afraid of spoilers, I would just recommend maybe skipping forward when a particular character is being talked about, just in case, if you really care about that character and you really care about spoilers. So just wanted to warn you guys, and on to the episode. Hey there, it's the Machine of Nonsense, episode 35, and the second episode of the Bracket of Nonsense. We are covering the Tony Stark portion of the bracket. Before we get to that, let's introduce ourselves. I'm Eric, your host, with Kayla.
Hello.
And Mike.
Hey.
And Tomas.
How's it going?
And Josh.
I notice I'm always last. Just throwing it out there.
You're at the bottom,
Bottom of the screen.
Oh, I know.
Sure, that's
you
why. That stuff.
If you got a picture or a webcam, that might rectify.
Yeah, I totally do it on purpose. So, like I said, we are doing the Tony Stark section of the bracket. We have 16 more matchups. Only 8 will remain after this. I'm going to do a little bit of a recap of who made round 1 from the Leslie Knope bracket. Leslie Knope, Mabel Pines, Walter Kovacs, Cliff Booth, Ahsoka Tano, Vegeta, Alucard, and Big Boss.
Good characters there.
We're starting off strong on the Tony Stark bracket. We have Tony Stark from the MCU versus Amy Dunne from Gone Girl. I nominated Tony Stark, I believe, right?
I don't think you did.
No?
Nelson and I did.
That was Mike, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I nominated for him to be a number 1 seed. So,
yeah.
kind
Okay. I'll
of the
give you
same. Mike, what do you think of Tony Stark?
He's just the foundation of the greatest movie franchise of all time. Just a pillar of that whole thing. Like he's great.
Eric and I have had many conversations about this. Tony Stark is just a dude. He's a smart dude with lots of money. So his superpower is just bravery. He just doesn't give a fuck and fights aliens from Earth and stands up to him. He's just the leader. He's just badass.
Love Tony, but also love Amy. Josh, that was your nomination.
Yes, it was. So the issue we're going to run into, though, is that Tony Stark has had X amount of movies of character development and growth and time to shine, while Amy Dunne has about 20 minutes.
Oof.
Because you don't actually know who Amy Dunne is until the plot twist happens. I think she's just really interesting because she is a sociopath, and it's interesting to see how her mind works and how she's willing to ruin somebody's life at the drop of a hat. And then once it's out of her favor, she then reverses and goes back in. It's just really interesting character development.
Sounds terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, Tony Stark is like a genius, but so is Amy Dunne in a lot of ways. Like, I don't think she gets enough credit as being just like, I don't know, super high level intellect to kind of outmaneuver every single person in that movie.
Yeah, I mean, her
except those two hillbillies. Those two hillbillies get the best at that.
Her entire plot arc starts with my husband is not good enough for me anymore. He is below me. That's what she thinks. And if she's right or not, I don't know.
I mean, I think Ben Affleck's top tier, regardless. You know,
He doesn't have successful relationships. I don't think he's a.
Not a good.
and he's a
track
super
record.
creep in that movie. So,
Is he?
I mean, he's with like one of his students, and he's significantly older and stuff. I think they play up that she's like a kind of ditzy young person being kind of maybe manipulated a little bit by the older Ben Affleck. So
Fair enough.
It's a little creepy.
yeah, he's a little bit of a creep. Yeah,
all the characters in that movie or whatever are all kind of flawed in a way.
Yeah.
No one's knight in shining armor.
And Tony Stark, not without his flaws. He
I know.
almost ends the Earth probably multiple times.
Yeah.
He also was a weapons dealer who,
Yeah.
sold weapons.
My issue with Tony Stark though is he does walk it back at the end of Iron Man 3. He's like, "Oh, I'm done with Iron Man. I'm getting rid of all my suits." Then next thing he's like, "Yeah, I got suits still."
Wow.
Yeah, he kind of breaks his, Pepper Potts' heart in that sense. Like the best thing in his life. Not a good dude.
My hero.
Who else is going to step up?
Well, you're right. Tony Stark should win. I think. Is this unanimous, or Josh? You gonna offend Amy over Tony?
Nah.
That's a tough one.
Nah.
Yeah, that's rough. You got
Bad
stuck
breaks
up against
for
top dude.
Yep,
Yeah.
just bad breaks. I'm willing to let her go.
Yeah.
Okay. I like it. So Tony makes it to round 2. Our next matchup:
Tony Baloney.
Nathan Drake from the Uncharted series and Hank Scorpio from The Simpsons.
It's the one we've all been waiting for.
Oh boy. This is something. I believe both me and Kayla nominated Nathan Drake.
Yes, you did.
You want to start it off, Kayla?
Sure. Nate is just like an everyman. I just want to be around him. He's just funny and charming. I love going on adventures to gather treasure with him. I love his interactions with Sully. I think they're funny. He's just a full joy to be a part of.
He is. He is a joy. I think Nate. He's Indiana Jones without that like gruff like dude I don't necessarily want to be around. Like he's got all the swashbuckling like leading man, good looks, all of that, all the quips, the one-liners, but actually he just seems like a good dude. Like you want to hang out with him, you want to grab a beer with him and go on an adventure with him. And like it's just so fun. His dialogue is the best, and he's probably my favorite video game character of all time. So there you go.
Sounds like you guys just described Hank Scorpio.
Well, Tomas, that was your nomination, right?
Yep, yeah, it was me. All I can really say is need some sugar. Sorry, it's not in packets.
Hank Scorpio's like towards the top of that list. He does a lot. He makes a big impression with only like
a short amount of time
or whatever. Simpsons has 1,000 memorable characters, but I think Hank stands above the rest of those like one-off type characters. He's just like Homer's boss, and he turns out to be like a Dr. Evil-esque, like take over the world type dude, and it's just cool.
It's so well done. It's like you kind of like can tell like something's up. Like why is he so upbeat? Why is he backing Homer so much as well? Like just this regular dude who's not completely even in on this whole entire thing. And like Mike said, like just in such a short amount of time, like I feel like whole entire series of like tried to develop characters over like multiple seasons, and I feel like with Hank Scorpio in like 15 to 20 minutes, like the fact that like this is the like episode that I remember about The Simpsons, like this is like my favorite episode of The Simpsons. I can always quote something from it, can always remember it, and like God, it's got to be like a close to like what, a 15 or 20-year-old episode at this point.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, I just love Hank Scorpio. I figured if I'm gonna throw a wild card in there, might as well throw in the wild card.
But Nate's great too. Like,
Yeah, that's
I've
like,
only played 2 and 4 in the Uncharted series, but I could completely see why
The appeal.
Nate is beloved.
Yeah, I only played 4 as it came with my PlayStation 4. So,
Well, you played the best one.
okay.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think Nate, like even by himself, he's so fun with other characters, like with Sully or with Elena or
Yeah.
something. But like just by himself, like his little like inner monologue and stuff, while he's adventuring, is like half the fun of those games. Like he will.
Oh no.
react- Right, yeah. I feel like he's reacting exactly how I would react if I was a badass explorer, mercenary guy,
It's a lot of good character development.
Yeah, and especially like in 4 when you get to find out he's had a brother and you find out that he was an orphan and him and his brother just wanted to get out and rename themselves and be these crazy treasure hunters after this wild old historic pirate name is just so fun.
It's a strong 15 minutes, but I don't think it could.
You get Hank's whole bag though. Like,
Yeah.
there's not, like, oh, he's just evil dude. Okay.
It's-
Would have been fun if he was a recurring character though, in some way.
that episode is just so like not even like just the Hank Scorpio parts. That whole entire episode is great. Like that's what, like Marge has got nothing left to clean, so she becomes an alcoholic. Lisa is like found everything that she
she's
loves
allergic
in
to
nature,
everything,
but she's
yeah.
allergic to everything. Like, what was Bart?
Great episode. But I don't think Hank can
No, I don't think it's enough muscle to
muster. Yeah.
maybe if he was placed against a few other people in this bracket, but
Is it canon, I guess, that Nate is like lucky he doesn't really get like shot and that's his health, that's his luck? Is that canon or is that just like a
Yeah,
That's how they
internet
explain
thing?
it.
developer said that. Yeah.
Okay.
That's the health system. Like, you're never getting shot until you die and get shot.
until you die, it's like fortune.
I think it's
scared of
that's a
things I
fun
read on the
thing.
internet.
Yeah.
I don't trust them.
No, that was official, like from Naughty
Holy
Dog.
moly.
Yeah, I couldn't
Chloe.
remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Josh,
Yeah.
any defense of Scorpio?
So my question, I don't really know a lot about Nathan Drake. My question is he just fun, cool guy, or does he actually have flaws in character?
He's got a lot of flaws. He's obsessive. I mean, that's the biggest thing. It ruins kind of all of his relationships, especially his main relationship with his wife. His obsession
Lies to her.
of he's always lying, and he's always like, "There's only one more score," like this is the last time.
The Thief's End was like a couple games back.
Right?
The
Yeah.
Thieves' End.
Yeah, it's
This
always
time
It
one
didn't
more
end.
It's time for sure, honey.
Okay, that's all I need to know.
Sounds like an alcoholic to me.
So we calling it Nathan Drake?
Yeah, I'm fine with Nate. That
Nasty Nate.
was a
Nasty
long shot,
Nate.
baby.
So Nathan Drake from Uncharted moves along with Tony Stark. All right, we got an interesting one coming up.
Oof.
Bob Belcher from Bob's Burgers versus Gollum from The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. Gollum was Ryan's nomination, and he's not here, so I think we can.
I'll take it.
We all know Gollum, I think.
Yeah, we've all seen the
I'll take
rank.
it.
Go for it.
Okay.
I'll take the ball.
Okay. Okay.
So
I'll start
the
off
reason-
with Bob, right?
Okay.
Maybe just because it's on top.
Sure.
I think Bob is the kind of culmination of all of the animated TV dads. Your Homer Simpsons and everyone else, and the Honeymooners, I guess, as the genesis of that. But in addition to that, he's just so like delightfully awkward. He sings to himself. He has like everything around him. He acts like they talk.
Yeah, he
like he
like gives inanimate objects personalities.
Exactly. And I think that's what like he's not like as bumbling as a Homer Simpson and everything else. So I feel he's or a what Family Guy, Peter Griffin, like those characters like annoy me way more than Bob ever does. I just like feel for Bob. Whenever he gets into a bad situation, I actually feel for him where I don't of Homer or Peter Griffin or any of the other bumbling dad, characters. So I think, that sets him apart. He's the top tier of that kind of well-worn character.
Pretty good.
So I wasn't prepared today to take on this onus of defending a character that's like over 100 years old or whatever. But the reason why Gollum is so interesting, he's kind of stood the test of time, is that he is the dark reflection of the protagonist, aka Frodo at this point, where this is where Frodo could end up if he falls to the temptation of the ring. And it's not like the ring always tell him promises power, whatever. But what it actually gives you is this sad, pathetic life where basically everybody hates you. You have no life anymore. It's still affecting you like a drug that you need it still. It's all you need. I just think it's an interesting way to both reflect the dark side of the protagonist while also bringing in themes of drug addiction into a story.
He really pushes the story along, too. I mean, he kind of is what destroys the ring in the end, and also he's the only reason we ever get to where we get to in that story. Like, he kicks off the story in a lot of ways, and he also finishes it and moves it along,
I should point out I've never seen these movies.
Gotcha.
Hey, I think you summed it up pretty well, to be honest. Like, I wouldn't have been able to defend him that well. So
I tried.
That was very good.
think you did well.
The only thing I can say about Bob is I have such a hard time dissociating that voice actor from Coach McGurk.
Yeah.
It's like every time I was like, Brendan. It's like,
He is a great voice actor.
I every time I hear him, I'm like, oh man, that's Coach McGurk. It's not even the voice actor's name. He's Coach McGurk.
I love contrasting with Archer because like that's the exact same voice. I mean, like it's just his voice, but like
yeah, it is. That's all it is.
So my thing though is that I feel like you have talked about Bob Belcher and how similar he is to the Peter Griffin, the Homer. He has his own quirks given, but I do think he is kind of an archetypal character. While Gollum, again, not necessarily from the movies, but he is the beginning of like things. He's a very influential character.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's exactly the difference between them. One is an archetype, definitely. Bob is like I like to think of him as the culmination of that archetype. Like he's the top tier until someone else takes him from that throne.
Takes the throne.
In my opinion.
Does he have a Hank Scorpio?
Ooh, hey.
Got a Teddy.
His
Teddy's
actually
pretty regular though.
I would say no. His Hank Scorpio is actually Mr. Fish Odor, like the guy who's played by Kevin Kline, or voiced by Kevin Kline, I should say. He's like a super evil. He's got one eye. He's got like an eye patch, and he's like a super evil landlord who like just extorts everyone in the whole town. So, not exactly Hank Scorpio, but more on the Dr. Evil side.
It's more of a Jeremy Jam.
So what? I think this one's closer than the last two. What do you guys say? I'm going Bob, obviously.
Gollum.
Oh, god damn it.
Man, come on.
Do what's right, Tomas.
Nobody puts baby in the corner. I've never really watched Bob's Burgers. But I've definitely seen the Lord of the Rings trilogy. What would Ryan do? Well, no.
Well, Ryan would vote for the character he picked, so
Yeah, I know. Oh. Starting off rough. All right, just give me like 2 seconds. All right.
Yeah.
Everybody, give me Eric. Give me your best. Your last, or I guess as
I also nominated Bob.
okay. Yeah,
Um,
Kayla, hit me with. I want to hear
Bob.
everybody's final words.
So Bob is like really quirky and always makes a lot of puns, so you know that he has some intelligence. And he's just really poor and has his family that sucks, and he'll tell them like, you suck, but I love you, let's do this. He will just go in the face of danger. There's a time where they are hunting this monster, which really they don't believe, but turns out to be very believable. And he like goes in front of everybody. He's definitely very brave and will definitely defend his family from danger. He will make sure that he will run the whole restaurant at the restaurant by himself, so his kids can like go to horse camp and they'll sell their fryer, so they won't have fries for 2 months, so his daughter can go to horse camp because that's like her biggest dream. So he's just a family man.
Yeah, he's like kind of like the begrudgingly will do stuff, but for the sake of the fam.
Yeah.
Kind of gathering. Okay.
Yeah, I
Eric?
mean, Homer worked 2 jobs, so Lisa could
Yeah.
have a horse.
I know, but like, Homer's got that scene where it says "Do it for her" on
Right.
his wall with all the pictures, and I can
Right.
argue that's a more touching moment in any regard out of any kind of like Simpsons had those little like nuggets where they like drop little gems here and there back in the early days.
For
But
me, I think Bob's Burgers is a really good show, but there's times when you kind of forget about Bob. Something like, what about Bob,
oh,
And to me, like the kids and sometimes even his wife are like the
okay.
best characters in Bob's
Okay.
Burgers.
So my final closing argument would be, let's say that Bob is the ultimate apex sitcom dad. Sure, whatever. But my thing is, would you rather have the influencer or the influenced? Gollum started everything, while Bob would be the end of everything. That's my take.
Okay. Honestly, I think Josh made a really good argument. Like the idea that like there is no Lord of the Rings without Gollum. Very, very focal like kind of character. He drives the narrative across, and he definitely brings a lot more to the character of Frodo, who some might argue is even the main character. But I think we're gonna go Gollum. Like, I think mainly just because, like, the idea that Bob is one of a group. Like, without the rest of his family, the show doesn't quite stand up as well. I don't know. I know more about Gollum too, so I'm probably just leaning a little bit more into what I'm more comfortable with. But yeah,
Feel ya.
let's go Gollum.
So Gollum over Bob. I think that might be a little upset, but even without Ryan here to defend him, way to go.
I think Josh made an excellent argument out
Hey.
the gate, to be honest.
Boom. Boom. So Gollum moves forward to face one of the next 2. We have Locke Cole from Final Fantasy VI, and we have the Joker from The Dark Knight. Tomas, Locke was yours.
Yes, Locke was me. I mean, honestly, it's just a lot of nostalgia. Final Fantasy VI is my favorite Final Fantasy. Mind you, that flip-flops a lot. And out of like a very large ensemble of characters, I do feel like he stuck out out of a good portion of them. It's like, obviously in Final Fantasy VI, you got your big old pile of characters I can give a fuck less about, like Realm and like Setzer and
Go-Go.
Go-Go. Go-Go's, even got utility in the sense that like you can equip like any kind of ability on him, but
Oh, fantasy cast. Here we go.
There we go. No, but I don't know. It was like it's a game with a lot of characters, and some of them are more developed than others. Obviously, I feel like Locke. They do a good job of like fleshing out his past that he doesn't really like to talk about. How he used to be in love with somebody, and like he failed in trying to save that person he loved, and he forever held in the guilt. It's like he's a quote unquote treasure hunter, and obviously his ulterior motive is to find some kind of means of bringing back this person that he lost. And in the meantime, that kind of guilt prevents him from moving forward in any other further relationships with people that he runs into. He puts on a facade of being a flirt just so that people don't get close to him. He makes a lot of mistakes in that regard too. I think like in such a large like cast of characters, they did a fairly good job at fleshing out, that one individual. Like I remember more about him than I do about most of the other characters in that game. And I just like his character design a lot. I think he's, pretty cool. He was always in my team. He was the guy at like I had it was wrongly translated as the Atma weapon in Final Fantasy 3, but is the Ultima weapon apparently. Like get that, the offering, Genji glove with another weapon. I'd be attacking like 8 times for 9,999. He was my showstopper. But
yeah, this one's a real knife in my heart because Locke is also my favorite character from Final Fantasy VI, and Final Fantasy VI is also my favorite Final Fantasy, so that's really rough. But I have to defend the Joker, and the moment he walks
Judas.
onto the screen in that movie, so there's the meeting of the crime bosses or whatever, they're all arguing, and he just walks in, and like the bodyguard, big huge dude, is gonna like take him on, like, who's this fucking clown coming in? And I want to show you a magic trick, and he just smashes his head into a pen or a pencil or whatever on the table. I was sold, and it just goes up from there. I mean, he's an agent of chaos, as he says. He's just doing everything. You find out that there's just no reason behind what he's doing. Like, he doesn't want money. He doesn't have demands. He's just messing with people.
Just wants Batman to show his face.
Yeah, I
Where's
think it's
the
more
Italian?
than that. Yeah, he's just having a lot of fun because, yeah, at first the mob bosses are like, "Oh, yeah, he's in it for the money. Here, we're gonna give him $1 billion or whatever it is, just stacks and stacks of money," and he lights it on fire. And they just don't understand. No one does. Even Batman doesn't understand him. Like, Alfred's like the only one. He has a nice little monologue where he tells him, like, "Hey, I was once tracking a dude who, like, we were trying to pay him off with diamonds, and some people just want to watch the world burn, and that's the Joker." And I think that's just going to stand the test of time. It's a tragic thing with Heath Ledger and everything else, but I think that performance, regardless of him,
Yeah.
passed away, I think we probably would have like 5 more Joker movies starring Heath Ledger at this point with that character, if he hadn't passed away.
So many iconic scenes in that movie, and he's like in 90% of them. It's how that movie opens, with the bank robbery. You mentioned the pencil gag, this whole like the Tony Stark bracket seems like just unfair matchups to be honest. Like this, because like I want to defend my boy, but like I'm David and Goliath right here. It's tough.
Yeah, Joker's wonderful. Any Locke Cole supporters out there?
Probably not.
I've played through Final Fantasy VI once, and I'm not really sure who Locke was.
Oh no!
Oh, there it is. There's the knife.
It's kind of damning. Josh, I know you're a big
mostly
Final
blue
Fantasy
palette.
VI fan, so
Absolutely is.
what do you got?
Never played it, never want to.
Josh is more of a fan.
My defense for Joker would be that he is a very well-used character, as in he has been worn to the ground. There's been X amount of actors playing him in TV shows and all that. Would you say Heath Ledger's Joker is the best Joker?
He's my favorite.
I think a lot
Joker.
of people would argue that.
Yeah, and I would generally agree. So that's my defense of him.
Yeah. So I think we can wrap this one up pretty quick. It's you're not gonna get an argument on me.
All
Joker.
right. The Joker will face
Cool.
Gollum.
Moving on to the next.
So on our next one, we've got an interesting one. We've got Ben Wyatt from Parks and Recreation, and we've got Monkey D. Luffy from One Piece. Ben Wyatt was Aaron's?
That was me.
Oh, there we go.
I
What
was
do you
so
got?
sure somebody would pick Leslie. And I was like, I gotta go with my boy Ben. Ben's my boy. I love Ben. He's the peanut butter to Leslie's jelly. I just love Ben's character. Cones of Dunshire. The locale calzone zone. When he was doing his stop motion animation. He was like, there's supposed to be more. I spent like 2 weeks on that. His love dynamic with Leslie is one of the best, love dynamics I've ever seen portrayed in any series. I cried when he stepped up to bat for it every time, whether it be when he proposed to her, when he finally decided to quit his job just to be with her, just the struggle that they dealt with it. He's such a quirky, goofy character in all regards. Ben Wyatt he's the everyman.
Yes,
I love him.
he's-
I love him. I love him. To death.
I would like to say I feel like he's the whipped cream to Leslie's waffle, but
That's good. Here, I got one more thing to say about him before I open it up. The idea that you get so grown and attached to Leslie, especially after the Brandanowitz incidents and stuff, and I have this feeling where I'm like, nobody's ever gonna be good enough to date Leslie, and then Ben Wyatt comes in and he swoops in and he steals my heart so that he can take Leslie, and he's the only character I could ever see being worthy of her.
All right. So Monkey D. Luffy, the main protagonist of One Piece.
I can defend this one too. He's made a
No,
rubber. How does that happen? Yo ho ho! He took a bite of gum gum.
Thank you, Tomas. Thank you. Monkey D. Luffy, more than any character on this list, I've spent the most time with. Close to coming in 1,000 episodes of One Piece for me. And other than any kind of generic anime protagonist, your Gokus, your Narutos, or something like that, Luffy's different. He has this guy on a quest. He just wants to become the greatest pirate and get this wonderful treasure at the end of this journey. But he really just becomes a huge inspiration and a force of good in this show. Every time they encounter a new land or something, he immediately will put his journey aside and spend 300 episodes helping some land overthrow some tyrant or something like that. And along the way, he's just gathering, more and more support until he's, one of the most powerful people in the world. He goes from having just a little sailboat, made out of a tub, basically, to having one of the highest bounties and one of the most well-known pirates in the world. It's something. It's beautiful.
Would you say that his superpower is unifying people?
Ooh.
Absolutely. He's kind of part of this which we still don't have answers to, like people who have the D name,
Yeah,
are like
clan.
part of this whole, important kind of people. So, yeah, he's made out of rubber, which is really cool. He's got cool like fighting and stuff like that he can do. And he's just great. He knows when to stop being like a bumbling kind of character, and when he needs to turn it on and just like do what's right and do what needs to be done and come up with a plan. He can do it. He's reliable that way too.
So both of these characters come from like big ensemble casts with like a lot of really memorable characters and stuff. Which would you say benefits more from having those other characters like along with them?
I mean, Luffy's able to carry the show. There is a huge chunk where he is separated from his crew like forever. And he's able to just like, okay, break out of this prison. Got my own kind of crew going right now, and he's able to carry that show, no doubt.
Gotcha.
I feel like there were episodes that focused on like Ben specifically, but like you mentioned, it's an ensemble cast by the end of the day. Ben Wyatt is a main character. He is not the main character of it. He definitely gets a lot more screen time than some other characters. I just enjoy his overall character. Like, he doesn't even come into the show until like season 3. I think he's a character that definitely benefits from his relationships with the other people around him. But I feel like that's that whole entire show in general too. It's like it's very much in like we're building a community. These are the people who are, leading that charge.
Yeah, for Ben, he like just comes there to do his job, and he's just trying to do his job and be an accountant. But he builds those relationships, and you see him kind of come out of his shell where he was like just behind a book, adding numbers and afraid to let loose. But the characters that he gets on screen with help him blossom.
Gets over his trauma of Snowtown.
He treats himself, goes all out.
Josh, I know you like both of these. What's your take?
Treat yourself.
So I will context for this. Ben is probably my least favorite character in Parks and Rec, and I've watched One Piece. I've read One Piece every day for the last 15, 16 years. Something like that. Yeah, I've been following One Piece forever. But my vote is for Ben Wyatt because I think Nelson's argument is inherently flawed. He is no different than Goku or Naruto or Gon or any other character. He has the exact same personality traits as any shonen character. The thing that I think Nelson, and the reason I love One Piece, is that the show has excellent world building. There is such a alive and thriving world, and Luffy is the very simple go through. To give an example of this, Nelson, can you please describe the relationship between Luffy and Robin?
I cannot. They do not give Robin a lot of stuff to do.
But that's my point, is that he is there to push the action forward and to explore this great world with all these amazing characters and beautiful, like, political climate shit. Beautiful world. Luffy is way too simple.
So, I guess in the answer that Nelson gave, he felt like Luffy had a lot of standalone episodes and whatnot, so he didn't need the ensemble as much as Ben. Do you differ in that?
Here's my, specifically the prison. The prison's interesting because it is a very unique prison, and it is still world building. Like, who are these prisoners? Why are they here? All the interesting stuff is Luffy encountering these people and their stories and why they're there and how they got there. That's the interesting stuff, not Luffy.
Interesting.
Well, I'm voting for Ben because he's my character. So that's 2 for Ben.
Wow. Man.
Ben.
Ben.
Well,
That's a three-piece.
Man, I was gonna go Luffy, but yeah, Ben wins. Ben
That's
10.
good.
Like, not to belabor the point, but Eric, I'm going to describe a character for you. He is always hungry. He's kind of goofy. He sticks up for his friends. He gets he is just Goku. He is exactly. He's got super forms that he
I
achieves at the
disagree with
train.
that. I disagree with that.
He
He's
doesn't take
just
care of his
Goku.
children.
He's not. He's not.
He's
I tried,
just
Ryan.
Naruto.
Sorry, man.
He's just Naruto.
I was gonna guess Mr. Popo, but you guys,
Call
beat
me.
to it. That's fine. All right. On to the
Mr.
next.
Popo.
Let's see who takes on Ben in the next round. The choices are Adrian Veidt from Watchmen, the TV show, or Phil Dunphy from Modern Family, also a TV
Ooh.
show.
In a fist fight?
It might be close. Adrian's getting a little old.
Yeah.
So Adrian was my nomination. I think it's perfect casting.
Jeremy Irons.
Jeremy Irons, that's his name,
Yeah.
was a wonderfully cast. He plays him so quirkily. I don't know if that's a word. He's so quirky in his old age. He's a weird dude anyway. If you've watched the Watchmen movie or read like the graphic novels, but I think he just plays it up in his old age even more. And he's just in such a unique situation, kind of marooned on another planet or a moon, I think. And able to create his own society, but kind of getting bored with it, and coming to the grips of that he's been bested by his daughter. She's smarter than him. She's richer than him. She's accomplished more than he ever did. At least people know she has accomplished more than he ever did, even though he saved the world.
Yeah.
So coming to grips with all that and like finally swallowing his pride and asking for her help to get back to the planet, that just really hit me from a character that just like is a stone wall. Like no one can tell him anything. He's the smartest person on the planet. He's the most vain person on the planet, and he has to kind of break down and ask for help for the first time ever.
Given the fact that he like outsmarted Dr. Manhattan like in the like original, like that's some pretty big dick energy to have to get down to a point where you have to, humble yourself to ask for help.
Yeah, he's pretty awesome. Big fan. Adrian Veidt. What about Phil Dunphy, Kayla?
Phil Dunphy. Quick, what's the color of the sun? Yellow. Phil
Dunphy. Next character
is just he's a father of 3 who's very childlike himself. He's very words are escaping me. Well, Phil is funny. He's a magician. He's a cheerleader. He's optimistic. He's very caring for people. He will constantly like put other people above his own needs. He obviously has relationships with the family in the Modern Family. My favorite's probably his and Jay's because he's just constantly looking for approval from Jay, who is his father-in-law. And there are times where if Jay needs Phil, who Jay is very reluctant to tell Phil that he needs him, like Phil is just super, super excited to help his father-in-law. But there are also times where Jay will poke fun at Phil to the point where Phil will burst. And there's scenes where they literally get into a boxing match and Phil like beats the crap out of Jay. And Phil's just so humble and a nice guy. He realizes that he had some pent up anger and apologizes to Jay. He's just very human and very lovable. He constantly wants to make his family happy. He is a great gift giver. He's so thoughtful. He's also sexy. He turns into Clive Bixby when he wants to turn up the heat in his marriage. So he never stops trying. That's what I can say about Phil.
Phil's great. That's another tough one. I mean,
Yeah.
Phil was on my long list of nominations, so that's tough. I think Adrian Phil suffers from the sitcom TV dad. Like he is part of that archetype. Like there are
Stuck in
ways he
mold.
stands.
Sitcom TV dads, I guess.
Hey, it works. I mean, it's a thing that works. But I don't think there's a lot of characters like an Adrian Veidt. Just so I kind of always err on the sake of uniqueness, if I can. But that'd be my argument. Any other thoughts?
Yes.
Go, Josh.
I despise the TV sitcom dad, but here comes another left turn. I despise Adrian Veidt even more. I was gonna sit out anything with Phil Dunphy because I have no experience with him, but I cannot sit out in trying to tear Adrian Veidt down, specifically the TV show, because we do have to follow his character from the movie, which had a great character arc. He was a solid part of the plot. He was the plot, essentially. He caused everything. And then we go to the TV show, and he is just a complete distraction and has nothing to do with the main plot. And it's very frustrating and annoying. So I could not care less for Adrian Veidt.
Oh, I completely disagree there. I thought the character in the movie version was just not like I barely remember him being around except the very end. And Jeremy Irons' portrayal in the show is just like this. Every episode, I was looking forward to catching up with what he was doing on this weird like planet or whatever, and I was completely engaged with that and ate it up every second of it. Loved it.
Yeah. See, that's where I would weigh in that unique is not always good, because again, had he had anything to do with the plot or any kind of payoff or anything, I would have been fine with it. But he has no connection to the main plot, and that's really annoying.
Yeah, I think that's a critique of the show versus the character. Like the show, you're 100% right. He is just a offshoot story, kind of doing his own thing. He doesn't impact the main plot in any like meaningful way. But his character and his backstory, he has saved the world, and now he's coming to grips with that and kind of not having any part of the plot. Like his lack of impact in the plot of that story is his like his issue, like what he's got to come to grips with in a sense.
Yeah, he's just like this looming force that's happening on Earth, like just like not a force, but like just like what he people think like he just like disappeared or whatever, and they don't know what happened to him, and they don't know what he was really, why this fucking thing landed on Earth, and he was behind it all. But we know that he's paying this, he's like in this weird space prison, and it's just cool. It's just so much fun.
Right, but that's my problem, is that he was quote unquote fun. I think it's such a tonal shift from everything else going on that it really destroys the character for me. But I've spoken my piece.
Ooh.
Tomas?
My vote is for
I figured your vote was for Phil.
yes, I was going to enumerate that.
This is hard because like aren't we also like voting based off of like only whatever medium you chose them in? So
what do you mean?
Well, like you're choosing TV series Ozymandias as opposed to movie.
Yeah, he doesn't follow the movie. Like the events of the movie aren't linked to the TV show.
I know
It's
the events aren't
of
linked, but like his character is still there. So it's kind of like
it's tangential, the difference.
Yeah,
he's the same character.
Yeah, well, except he's played by Jeremy Irons, who just so happened to be one of the greatest villains of one of my favorite movies. So, talking about Lion King, no, but I like Ozymandias, the character. I was a huge fan of Watchmen before the movie was even made. Alan Moore is one of my favorite writers. I really like Phil Dunphy too. It's like,
Feels really good.
Phil's
Yeah.
the glue that holds the family together.
Yeah,
I
and
just
like,
thinking about other like just personality traits and characteristics and things that he does. There's a scene where he goes to visit Alex in college, and Alex is having a hard time fitting in, and the school's doing this like you wear a ugly prom dress and jump in the pool thing, and Alex is very like, no, I'm not gonna do that. And Phil like secretly goes, buys her a prom dress and like leaves it at her house or at her dorm. She doesn't know what the gift is. He says it's like her contacts or whatever he was there to bring her. Oh, I have contacts. And she like, of course, is a hormonal teenage college kid and like doesn't want to spend time with her dad. Then she opens that and she goes and swims and fits in.
yeah.
While he like eats wings by himself and cries.
Well, that's his thing too. What I really like about his character is like he's like so outwardly like this goofy, trying to fit in kind of guy, but he's like so many times like he does, like you mentioned, he goes above and beyond, and like he does the right thing. Like he's kind of like this pariah and like this world of, I guess, quote unquote, kind of imperfect characters. It's not as like the hugest character flaws you've ever seen in like sitcoms. We're not talking
Yeah,
Married with Children kind of character flaws, but
he also
it's
has
like, go ahead.
he also has really fun times where he does like not do the right thing and will like be a little evil, behind the scenes and leave stuffed animal heads in kids' beds and stuff.
I haven't seen all of Modern Family, but I've seen a lot of stuff. That's like one of those shows that like you put it on the station and it's on for like 8 hours straight.
Yeah.
It's like, and it's like one of those ones that I don't click away from too, because I feel like it's a pretty good show. I haven't like binged it yet, but I am looking for another show to put on my list. I just got done watching Invincible, so
It takes a long time to get through.
yeah,
There's a lot of
but,
episodes.
I like both of these characters a lot. This is real hard. And
This one seems like it might be coming down to
seems like I'm-
Tomas's
Again?
vote
another
again.
deciding vote. So,
Well, Let's go
Jerry-
through them. I'm Phil.
Jerry Springer, give me your final thoughts.
Yeah, I think Josh was Phil, Kayla's Phil, and I think me and Mike are both Adrian, right?
Yeah.
It's tough. I hate voting against Phil, but I want my pick to move forward.
No, it's absolutely. You gotta stick by your ideals, buddy.
I mean my thing is Adrian's unique. Phil is a riff on the TV Dad, a very great one. My favorite
It's
non-animated,
comfort food.
but yeah. But Adrian
And-
is just a weird, really cool character.
Right, and my argument would be unique is always good. It has to fit in with the overall story as well.
I think I've made my choice. Because I seem to recall two of you guys wanting to drink a beer with this TV Dad.
I don't want to drink a beer
So-
with Adrian Veidt.
So
Two people
I'm,
who are not voting for Phil.
I'm going with Phil Dunphy based off of that.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
fun.
I'm digging in the past, baby. Listen to
I'm actually
episode
okay with it.
number whatever for that.
Yeah, if Bob's gonna lose, Phil should win.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
coming
still
for
gonna
Phil
have
when
to
he's against somebody who's not Adrian Veidt.
It's going up against Ben White. Let's go.
Ooh.
All right,
He's
so
just
this-
toasting.
Poor Phil.
He just goes. God damn.
Oh, boy. So our next matchup is a matchup of really good hair. We have Spike Spiegel from Cowboy Bebop and Anton Chigurh from No Country for Old Men.
The face of blowouts.
Spike, was that you, Nelson?
No, I was Anton.
Oh,
I believe I was the Spoogle, the Spike
Oh, good.
Spoogle.
well, speak on Spike.
Oh god, why am I always first? Fuck. I don't know, man. The Cowboy Bebop's just fucking good. Fuck it. Like Spiegel, he's a man with a past. You know, and they don't touch on it too much throughout the series. He was part of a crime syndicate for a long time, fell in love with somebody, ran away from the life, and he could never seem to escape it completely to the point where, at the end of the series, it's something he has to deal with. There's this character Vicious that he's always, they were best buds at first, and then, they veered off, went separate ways in their directions, and now they're like destined to just come back and, settle the score. He's very charismatic, kind of like tries to play it chill, regardless of like how fucking messed up he is on the inside. He's doing his best to try to just move past all the shit, but like it's just this burning note in the back of his head that he knows that he's got to deal with at some point. He just doesn't know when. So he's a bit of a tortured character in that regard as well. I don't know. He's just a fun character too. It's like serious when he needs to be serious, lighthearted when he needs to be lighthearted. Not necessarily good, not necessarily evil. Kind of like this little grayish nougaty center. But then he's he's a bounty hunter too. He's like, and like just that idea of like whizzing around in space and like yeah, I think his character has a very fun backdrop of like just being in the future and being a space bounty hunter as well. So, I don't know. He's a fun character.
I think Anton was a twofer, right? That was me and Nelson. You want to start it off, Mike?
Sure. Anton, more than any character on this list, I might want to just know more about. Like, what his deal is. We don't get to know a lot about him. We just get to know about, like, just the way he views life. And how insignificant it is, and how he leaves things up to chance. He's just involved in the cartel or something, right? We think, and he's trying to collect this money that has been lost. He's like this unstoppable force. He's almost like a Terminator in the movie that just keeps finding cool and clever ways to kill people. And he's just got these quotes. He doesn't speak a lot, but when he does, it really sticks with you every time. And he's just a great villain. I just love him.
Yeah, he really is.
We got two bounty hunters.
I was thinking that during this, like, is he?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could call him an assassin because he like specifically kills people, but he's a bounty hunter. Yeah,
a cleaner or
sometimes
something.
The bounty is dead or alive,
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's anything else I can say. I think just the fact that he is so menacing with that ridiculous haircut.
Yes.
Like you're still afraid of him, like even though he looks goofy. Like I think that says a lot about the character, and
it's Javier Bardem, right?
That's correct, yeah.
Man.
Yeah, I think that's the first time I've seen him in anything, and it's like, man, who is this dude pulling off this, like Eric said, this weird haircut and just stealing every scene that he's in? Like, oh man, yeah.
His facial expressions are always so unique. It's like you kind of want to let your guard down. He's kind of soft, but then he's terrifying. He's menacing.
Yeah.
He's just frightening.
Yeah, and he probably gets third most screen time out of like Josh Brolin, Tommy Lee Jones, and then it's probably him. But I think he kind of like just washes them off, in that movie.
Yeah.
Like he steals the show in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
Got an Oscar.
Deserved it.
Okay, so my context for Spike Spiegel is that I watched a bunch of Cowboy Bebop, never the entire show, when I was younger. Never really stuck. It was always too episodic for me. There wasn't really a lot of through. Like Spike doesn't really change that much, and there's not really a really significant plot that goes from episode to episode and builds. But I would disagree with Nelson on wanting to know more about Anton. I don't want to know anything else. He is like the best way of describing him is like a personification of fate, where he is a person who is interacting with the world, but he just feels like nothing's going to stop him. We're not trying to stop him. Let's see where this goes. Like, I think that's a very interesting thing to pull for the character. So that's why my vote would be Anton.
Nicely said.
Yeah, interesting. Now I don't want to know anything about him.
Thank you.
Never. I mean, I'm obviously Spike. My character, my nomination. You guys made an excellent argument, though. So
for me, Spike just benefits so much from the soundtrack and the propulsion of the action and stuff. He just gets to stay cool, like when there's just cool jazz playing.
Cool ass jazz, baby.
He's also not Ed, so I don't care.
Oh, okay. Well, should have saw that one coming. But
that's great.
One last little hint, and like Josh is, got a point. Like Bebop doesn't really tie in. Like there's a lot of like action, and you'll get like little nuances of like character development here and there. And mind you, it's only like a 26 episode anime, but it's like you find out little bits about these characters, but that's not like the main driving force behind like the whole series until like the very end. But Spike is definitely a character whose story does get fleshed out if you watch the whole thing.
We'll get to see him in live action soon.
Yeah, that's true. I wonder how that's going to be. They did get the same composer, so
Netflix refuses to show the show. Like, so.
Yeah. It'll be at WitcherCon.
Yeah.
So I think is that 4 votes for Anton and 1 for Spike? Is that what we got?
Google.
Yeah.
That's cool. I already got one anime guy on this. So. I mean, unless you want to count Alucard too. So
it's anime as fuck.
I do.
All right, so Anton Chigurh moves on to round 2 to face
Tupac Shakur.
The winner of our final matchup of the day. We have Willow Rosenberg from Buffy the Vampire Slayer versus Joel Miller from The Last of Us.
Murder.
Kind of a rough one. Willow was Ryan's nomination. He's not here, so I'm going to do my best to, give some respect to Willow.
I can hear the ambulance in the background already. And somebody's
They're ready to pick up Willow. They're ready to get Willow. Willow goes from being like a nerdy kind of side character to actually becoming one of there's a whole story arc where she's like the main villain of Buffy for like a whole season. She finds out she has latent witchcraft powers. She's a magic user. So she's like one of the most important characters in one of the most beloved kind of shows, and just fiction in general. I mean, there's comics, there's everything. Buffy's immensely popular, and Willow is an integral part of that story. She's also a lesbian character. So in a show that came out almost
early
30
90s?
years, yeah, like mid to late
90s
90s.
Oh, was it
yeah,
late?
okay.
I've never seen it.
So we're talking, 20 plus years ago, you didn't have as many, LGBT kind of characters out there. So kind of some good representation in that as well. So got a lot going for it. But probably not as much as Joel. Who wants to defend Joel Miller?
He hits people in the head with bricks. Very good.
I mean,
Joel's just
who
a
picked Joel?
heartbroken father. I don't remember.
It might have been me.
I picked Ellie, not Joel. So then you go first.
yeah, I think Eric was Joel, but
Eric, defend both of them.
I will. I mean, like
You picked it. You should go first, and then we'll add if we need to.
sure.
I can.
I'll start it off, and then we can have the Joel Love Fest. I think I said earlier Nathan Drake's my favorite video game character of all time. I might have lied to you because Joel's wonderful. Like Kayla mentioned, he's a grieving father. We don't get to really know what happened for about 20 years of Joel's life, but we know it's terrible. We know he's done terrible things. He's not a good person. We get to do terrible things as Joel in that game. but he's a very redemptive character. He spends the rest of his life trying to make up for the things he's lost, the things he's done. And in a lot of ways, he does. But he's a troubled character. You can't say that he's a good guy. He's more of an anti-hero who's trying to be good, but because he's a flawed human, he does some flawed things.
Joel's been hurt. Joel's been hurt bad.
Yeah, one of my, I guess, favorite kind of tropes and stories is like, road trip apocalyptic kind of thing. So, and Joel is like the best version of that.
Joel is, like I started to say, he's just a heartbroken father. He's gone through when the outbreak started. You see that just traumatic scene of his daughter being killed, gunned down, if I remember correctly, by the military. So obviously he has some trust issues there, but he is living these 20 years, as Eric said, doing bad things. He's got a hard life. He trusts no one. It's a matter of survival where humans are definitely going to turn against each other. And you see him like be so harsh, but then when Ellie comes into the picture, he definitely softens up and makes some questionable choices, but just he makes those choices because he loves her so much and can't accept the fact that he would be without her.
I think Joel's a good depiction of like the idea of like sometimes we have to make choices and they don't like you're not necessarily given like clear cut this is the best choice and this is the worst choice. It's like sometimes you just have to make a choice. And like I felt like a lot, especially that first game, it's just like fuck, But it's like, and I feel like they do a good job of like building his character around the point where it's like, I think Aaron summed it up pretty well in like one of our previous casts where it's like by the end of the game when you're going in to save Ellie, it's like I had no qualms with just like gunning down that whole entire emergency room. I believe I did a spit take when you made that little line, but yeah, he's a rough, gritty character, but like, you don't get to see much of the 20 years in between. Because he was a father, there's obviously a human in there at some point. They do an excellent job at like building his dynamic with his daughter in such a short amount of time at the beginning, and then here's the knife, stab, twist, pull out, do it a couple more times, and now he's just this brooding, angry, disheveled man, and you're behind the steering wheel, and you deal with a lot of that brooding, and then you get to see like Ellie peel back a few layers of the onion. But he still absolutely makes some very questionable like decisions based off of selfishness. Because in a lot of ways it seems like he's probably trying to like I couldn't save my daughter, maybe I can save her. And it doesn't really matter whether or not the decision's right or wrong. This is what I want for my own sake.
Right.
But it doesn't like. He's like you guys said. He's not a good person per se, but that doesn't make him a bad character. So I loved the first Last of Us. Well,
it's an oxymoron.
The little bit that we do see him in the second one, we see him just like trying so hard that it's almost sickening to gain Ellie's forgiveness. But he's trying and you see them have really nice moments, which I really enjoy. Again, like the voice actor just brings so much to this as well. You have Troy Baker. It's just such a fun person to play as, and to see even in all the cutscenes, I'm just like glued. I want to know what he's gonna say and how he's gonna act. He's supportive of Ellie being gay, which is nice. Again, something we don't really see in video games.
Depends which ones you play.
Yeah, that's true.
mainstream, I guess, like
Mainstream, yeah.
mainstream
Sure,
AAA.
sure.
This,
You know,
this is yeah.
Yeah,
This
you
brought
guys
it
are
brought it to the front.
You guys are playing Mass Effect right now. I can have sex with whoever I want.
Oh, Eric's ready.
Josh, you're not a Last of Us guy, but I don't think you're really a Buffy guy either.
You don't know that.
No, I'm not a fan of Buffy. I've seen very little of it. Didn't catch my attention, but that's whatever. I do have things to say about Joel, but because I don't know enough about Willow, I'm just going to abstain.
Oh, okay. Well, I would still like to hear what you got to say about Joel. It may sway some.
There's
of our...
always second round.
Yeah.
Okay. Save it.
Yeah,
Saving
he might
that
need
for-
it. He's coming up on a tough matchup, I think.
Yeah, so I'm just going to save it because everyone's talked about Joel enough for
Yeah.
first round.
I respect your choice.
Joel Miller gets to round 2.
Sorry, Ryan.
Almost deserves his own bracket.
Almost.
All right. So we've completed the Tony Stark section of the bracket. We've had 16 matchups today. 8 contenders still remain from the bracket. They are Tony Stark, Nathan Drake, Gollum, the Joker, Ben Wyatt, Phil Dunphy, Anton Chigurh, and Joel Miller.
Sausage fest over there.
I don't know if Gollum has genitalia, so, you know.
He might.
You do rip it off.
Yes. if you want me to be so graphic, yes, I think he may have.
What if the ring told him to, you know?
What if he
No.
wore it? Or the
Codpiece.
Oh,
Got himself. Nice.
That's where he hides it.
That's where the power
Oh.
is.
Save it for when he has to take on the Joker, guys. This is
He's really bad at saying the word penis. He doesn't know how to say it. He says precious.
Yeah.
I don't
That's
know.
canon.
Look,
That's
we
pretty
don't
canon.
kink shame at this podcast. So.
We don't. We don't.
Not shaming anybody.
So that was episode 35, the second episode of the Bracket of Nonsense. We now have completed half of the first round of the Bracket of Nonsense. We have taken 32 and turned it into 16. On our next Bracket of Nonsense episode, we will hit the Magneto section of the bracket. We
Magneto.
have 16 more contenders that will be discussed in head-to-head matchups, and we'll get down to 8. Our next episode will actually be a roundup of everything that's coming in July, so that'll be episode 36, and then episode 37 will be Bracket of Nonsense Part 3. So be looking forward to those. We ask you always to subscribe, like, review the podcast, share our social media stuff, get in on our conversations on our fan group Monstars on Facebook, join us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, anchor.fm/machine of nonsense. You can leave us a voice message and tell us what you want to hear on a future pod, just like Demetrius did.
Hey guys, it's me, your friend. Your friend, sort of, mostly. Anyway, it's Demetrius. I just had a quick question. So, we really like that Final Fantasy IX run you guys did. Not that I would say I don't want another one. I do. Metal Gear? I love how heated you guys got in the last part of the bracket. I want more. Okay. Yeah. Do that. Cool.
So, Demetrius would like us to do a disc dive into Metal Gear Solid. We're a little busy right now with the Bracket of Nonsense, but that is something we will definitely do. We're all big Metal Gear fans, and we're going to get in deep on Metal Gear Solid. So look forward to that in the future. We would never want to tell Demetrius know.
But we're all going to play a different Metal Gear game and then bring it to the table.
Who's getting Metal Gear 1?
I love it. I
Oh,
love
Lord.
it. All right, guys, this was fun. Bracket of Nonsense, Part 2, Episode 35. I was your host, Eric, for Kayla, for Mike, for Tomas, and Josh. We're saying goodbye.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.